Once again it is time for yet another Asus Zenfone. The number of variants that the Taiwanese giant pushes out is perhaps second only to Samsung. For the most part, the company has focused on meaningful differentiation with the Laser and Max series targeted towards bringing elements from the Zenfone 3 to the mass market, but with a sharp focus on the camera and battery capabilities respectively. We've already reviewed the Zenfone 3 and the Zenfone 3 Laser. Today let's take a look at the Zenfone 3 Max. Design. If you've seen one phone from the Asus Zenfone 3 lineup, you have a pretty good idea of how all the others will look. You can argue that the homogeneity in design works well in the consumer's favor. Indeed, the fact that you get a premium design akin to the company flagship in a lower-tier handset is certainly great. The Zenfone 3 Max however eschews the gorgeous glass and spun metal rear finish of the Zenfone 3. The front fascia of the phone is nigh identical to the Zenfone 3 Laser save for the paint scheme. Where the Laser had an all-gold finish, the Max has a white front. While it is covered in protective Gorilla Glass, we found it to be exceptionally prone to scratches and you'll want to be really careful with the hardware. Up above the screen is where you'll find the usual array including the proximity sensor, 5MP front-facing camera. Below the screen are three capacitive keys that correspond to back, home and menu. Unfortunately these are not backlit. Once again, like the Zenfone 3 Laser, you'll observe that there's a subtle 2.5D curve to the front glass that runs around the edge of the screen and merges rather sharply with the rear panel of the phone. The bezels on either of the screen are rather insignificant but quite substantial both above and below the screen. On the right-hand side of the phone is the volume rocker as well as the power button below it. Both the inputs offer great tactile feedback and were very responsive. In fact, this is one feature that we usually like about Asus phones. They're well-built devices with good ergonomics and feedback. The left side includes the hybrid SIM slot while top and the bottom have the 3.5mm audio jack and the micro USB port respectively. The back of the phone is plain with some minimal Asus branding towards the bottom. The dual LED flash, camera and laser autofocus unit sit on the same plane with a very symmetric design. Above and along the bottom edge you'll notice two antenna bands that fit in well with the design and of course, improve radio performance on the phone. A fingerprint scanner also sits here and proved to be both fast and accurate when placed against the competition. Through software, Asus has made the fingerprint scanner particularly useful. You can use a series of taps to activate functionality like answering calls, launching the camera and taking photos. The Zenfone 3 Max measures 151.4 x 76.24 x 8.3 mm and weighs about 175 grams, making it a pretty lightweight handset despite the large display. The phone continues to be pocketable, though we wouldn't mind smaller bezels along the top and bottom. Overall though, the phone is ergonomically sound, and unless you have an instant dislike for larger devices, you'll find that it sits very well in your hand. Software. Like several generations of Asus devices, Our concerns with the software mostly center around a tremendous amount of bloat on the phone. Running Zen UI 3.0 based on Android 6.0.1, the phone is a cornucopia of colors and hues and has an approachable albeit a bit juvenile take on Android skins. The interface paradigm is fairly standard, just the way we prefer it. The lock screen allows for customizable shortcuts in addition to the camera launcher, clock. You can obviously view notifications here. Like we've talked about earlier, the home screen is very customizable and lets you change theme packs and more. Unlike many Chinese competitors, the phone does not get rid of the app drawer, which is certainly welcome. Within the app launcher, we like the capabilities on offer, including the automatic sorting of installed apps. As for the pre-installed applications, there's close to 26 of these and includes everything from weather, movie maker, photo collage apps and more. Now we're not saying that these are bad apps, far from that. We're a bit surprised by how robust these apps tend to be, but pre-installing these takes up precious space. Additionally, it isn't always possible to delete these, and the best you can do is to disable them. For what it's worth, there's a few nifty additions like the audio wizard that can tweak system audio based on the scenario that you are in. A laser ruler app makes use of the laser autofocus module to act as a rangefinder, though the accuracy is a bit suspect. More importantly, the software is quite well optimized, offers some interesting additions, but the heavy-handed pre-bundling on the hardware is something we could have gone without. Performance. The phone is powered by a 1.4 GHz Snapdragon 430 processor paired with an Adreno 505 GPU. In addition, there's 4 GB of RAM, which is more than sufficient for multitasking on a device of this caliber. Performance is as you'd expect and general tasks sail through smoothly. Zen UI continues to delight with its level of refinement and how well it pairs with the hardware on hand to offer a super slick and smooth experience. Stress the hardware though, and things are a bit different. With a Snapdragon 430 processor, graphic-heavy use is really not the phone's forte. High-end games result in a bit of frame drop. The phone also heats up in such use case scenarios. This is a phone that is more optimized for communications and general use than for someone who craves performance, and you should temper your expectations accordingly. We've included a few comparative benchmarks below that place the Zenfone 3 Max against the competition. In Geekbench 3, the Asus Zenfone 3 Max scored last, where it practically tied with the similarly spec'd Zenfone 3 Laser. Display. The display on the Zenfone 3 is a full HD IPS panel. Stretched across to 5.5 inches, it delivers a pixel density of 401 ppi. The resolution is perfectly at home on a panel of that size, and as such, icons and graphic elements look tack sharp. The contrast ratio here is a bit tame and makes colors look a bit muted, so you shouldn't really expect the vibrant and slightly oversaturated colors you see on AMOLED panels. Brightness levels top off at 400 nits, which, while the highest around, is absolutely sufficient to allow for great sunlight visibility.